Okay. Welcome back to 3MFAers. It's me, Caleb, and I'm here with my good friends, Josh and Brandon. Say hello to the class.
That's us.
Well, that's
We're
Brandon.
here.
I'm Josh.
we have quite a bit to cover today. We've got a really amazing, fun family romp that we're going to talk about a little later.
I'm upset.
But we saw a couple television shows. I know that we've briefly discussed The Boys before, but now that we've all finished season 2, how did you guys feel? Do you guys like it? What's going on?
So I just finished it.
Also, sorry,
what time is it?
spoilers for all 3 of these things.
Spoilers around.
So spoilers.
Yes, spoilers.
Yeah.
So I just finished it 15 minutes ago. I loved it. I didn't see a lot of it coming, which surprised me. You know, the Nazi ties and all of that. Everything with Stormfront caught me off guard.
She was great.
She was so fucking good.
I was so surprised by her.
That's the thing. It really is. It's great writing and great acting and just coming together in such a good way. I mean, fuck. All of it.
I finished it a couple of weeks ago and was texting Caleb about it because what I took most from it, minus just the awesome acting and the storytelling, things like that, is predominantly like the construction of the TV show in like this 8-episode kind of arc where a lot of it is, you know, and it's funny because I can probably put this on to Queen's Gambit, and this is what I'm going to want to talk about mostly is predictability, right? Like there's a way that like it's okay if it's predictable, if you're following the logic of the show and you come to a moment where like, all right, well, she's obviously going to have to be beaten at some point. It's either going to be this person, or this person, you know? So you have these options, and then whatever they choose to do, although like, you know, like not surprising, but what's surprising is like the execution and like making sure that it all kind of fits, right? Like for instance, the son, you know, like I knew it was going to be either him or maybe the mother was going to like testify or something was going to happen. But there was enough things that popped up like the heads, that I was like surprised, but I was still able to kind of follow what was going to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in a storytelling way that things, you know, have to come to certain heads for sure. But I found each one of those interesting. Like it. Yeah. It was just, it all made sense. It all came together. They've left a lot, you know. You know, unlike Queen's Gambit, which we jumped to for a second there, like, because I agree, Josh, that's one of the things I appreciated the most about it was that they let that story play out how it, in my opinion,
you knew how it was going to end.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like you said, like it was good, you know? Like I appreciated that they didn't kind of take the bait of like, how do we make this more dramatic?
Right. How do we do this? How do we throw in a plot twist just because, you know?
Well, that's the thing with like The Boys, you get to do that. You know, it's not a limited series, so you have that plot twist at the end, which I loved, by the way. Oh,
yeah. 100%. Like, it's interesting because, like, you know, like, Homelander is fucking nuts. Mm-hmm. And, like, for instance, the end of season 1, when he kills the CEO or the woman, forget her name, sorry. I will be better at names, Madeline. You know she's going to die. As soon as the scene starts, you're like, oh, he's going to fucking kill her. But then it's like, the next question is, how, right? And so that's where I think The Boys is kind of a step above some other of these TV shows that are out, is because although predictable, its execution is very, very well done and somewhat surprising, but not surprising at all, because it's like, yeah, of course, he'll just melt her face. Like, there's really nothing else to do, you know? So...
Yeah, it's engaging.
Yeah.
So just because, you know, you can be like, oh yeah, like I can foresee some of these events happening, but it's like satisfying because you're not like bored. Right. You know, you're like predicting what's happening, and then satisfying when like you can like pick up on clues and correctly like assume and guess.
Yes.
As opposed to something that's just like dumb and it's like, oh, like this is probably what's going to happen, and when you're not engaged because like maybe the writing's not good or the acting's not good or it's like too long or whatever, it just becomes a chore to like get through, and you're checking off boxes. But like these people clearly care about the story they're constructing, and everybody involved is so talented that it becomes like,
yeah.
I can't wait to see how fucking crazy Homelander is going to do, or what he's going to fucking, and he goes fucking nuts. He's one of my favorite moments from him is in the first fucking episode when he, with that blind superhero, when he fucks him up.
Oh my God.
And that's something too, like when it's a perfect example, I think what you're talking about, Josh, because like afterwards you're like, well, of course he would do that. But in the moment, it caught me completely off fucking guard because he's so good and he's not telegraphing and and he's like, now you're just a fucking cripple. I was like, oh my God, he's awesome.
Somebody give him all the awards. He is unbelievable.
One thing that I really liked this season over the last, like season 1 is very much Homelander and Butcher. And that's like what it is. That's the show. I think they're both great, but this season gave everybody else a little more to do and fleshed out other
many characters. Dude, Chase Crawford's character, the Deep.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So well done. A character that's not as interesting or well done if it's not acted that way, he's doing such a good job.
It's so interesting because he's like, the first thing we see him do is like sexually abuse somebody, and the rest of his arc is like, you kind of almost feel bad for him because he's so pathetic and he's playing it like so like just a fucking I don't know, pathetic's the only word I can really think, because he's just so
a sad puppy.
He's just so sad, and he's just such a fucking idiot. He's like more like dumb than malicious. But then like the show never lets you forget that it's like, no, he like is an abuser. Specifically this other character that you really care about. And every character's like that. Like every character, they'll like trick you into like feeling empathy for them, and then it's like, oh wait, remember this person's a monster, because everybody's a monster.
But that's what I was gonna say. Same thing with A-Train, right? Like
A-Train, Queen Maeve, like all of them.
All of them.
Well, and then it's
Black Noir.
Black Noir. The fact that he gets like the way that he got beaten was so.
It's so funny.
It's so funny because it's just so random and like, oh, sure, okay, I guess.
But they telegraphed it again, because the first time he's talking to that girl when she's like doing the eagle eye spy thing, she's eating an almond joy and he throws it in the trash. So you're like, oh, I guess he just fucking hates candy. But then later they rub the almond joy on his fucking face. And it's like, oh yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like, why is this scene in here? It's like funny, but I don't get it. And then later it comes
pays
back.
Off. Yeah, well,
set up and pay off. Screenwriting 101.
I want to go back to the Deep, because in terms of bringing it back, like,
do you like a Fresca?
Just like a Fresca? That was
fuck Fresca.
Fresca's great with like vodka.
No, but remember he says that to the guy when he leaves?
Oh, sure. Because like the whole church, and then his head blows up.
So and then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blows his fucking head up.
Yo, a great fucking twist though. Fantastic twist.
People are mad.
Absolutely.
Why?
People are mad about it because it's very clearly an AOC stand-in, and people are like, why are you making her a bad guy? People are stupid. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, well, because I don't know, but I would guess if you go back to the comics, that was written years ago.
Well, the comics, so that's something else to bring up too. I think this show is really good adaptation because it changes a lot of stuff.
Oh, does it?
Like Stormfront is an old man, like somebody that Sam Elliott would play in the comics. But they modernized it because like you have to when you're adapting something to make it like a social media, like alt-right Nazi fucking lunatic. And I think she does a great job.
Oh, she was so fucking good.
I don't know if you guys have read any of the comics.
I've read a little bit.
I've read the first 2, maybe 3 issues, and they're fucking awful. Like it's the same great idea, but Garth Ennis, it's the same guy who did Preacher. And my issue with him is that he's so fucking like edgy and like grim and like over the top. It's ridiculous. Like it's so like there's so much like depraved sex shit and violence, and like there's a character in the comics who like gets chained in a basement and force fed his own shit. Like it's like too over the top. It's too much.
Yeah.
And so if you can fucking believe it, the Amazon show is toned down despite all the fucking gore and the violence. But I think it's the right amount, because like they took the good characters and the good premise and made it something better by taking out the too extreme stuff. And so I think that's why it's a good adaptation, because they're like, all right, this shit would not work for like a majority of the audience. So we're going to make it less fucking insane and focus more on characters than trying to shock people, you know?
I mean, the best possible reverse version of that is what we all can't wait to see, that fucking new movie that's coming out. You know, a movie that you just shouldn't have adapted because it's definitely not going to work.
Oh, Chaos Walking.
Chaos Walking.
The best. I still have not stopped laughing at the part in the trailer where it's Nick Jonas and he's like, "Watch your noise." It's the dumbest thing in the world. And then Tom Holland's like, Nick Jonas alone. Nick Jonas is a big boy. He makes his own fucking decisions. If he was in a bad movie, he should be able to take criticism for it.
All right, that's fun. You know
That's
what?
true.
I don't blame any of them. You know, I feel like when you get offered that type of movie, that's really hard not to take, but it's just not going to work. It's just not a transferable.
Well, when you're a musician originally and you like want to dip your toe into acting, it's just like whatever. Let's
no, bro. He's been acting a while, man. He did a whole show called Kingdom.
He did a whole show called The Jonas Brothers.
No, okay,
I don't know
fair.
if you're aware.
But Josh, when they all like broke up, he jumped on a show. He was on a show called Kingdom, which was an MMA based show with Frank Grillo. And so
I see that popping up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really,
I was an extra on that.
Really good in it.
I mean, I'm saying though, like what people like when you say Nick Jonas, you think of the Jonas Brothers, you think music,
for sure.
And
Disney Channel.
You know, it's not. We don't think like dramatic, like a litany of whatever. But
enough about Jonas Brothers.
Well, no, because with the boys, it's what's also great about what we've alluded to is the fact that it all just makes sense. Like it all fits into what you would think that these characters would be involved in a world where superheroes are part of the mainstream, like capitalistic kind of empires. Like they all have their own brands. You know, it's of course Starlight would go to these like Jesus like
capes for Christ,
because she her light. So you could very much use that to influence like religious people. Like of course, you know, and it's like. It's a show like all the blackmailing and things like that. Like I thought that was really well done, but it all makes sense. Like even with the deep, like the mitigation, like, okay, maybe you can get back in the 7, but you have to go to fucking Ohio for a little bit first and then try and do stuff there.
How do you feel about that being from the Midwest? Just like Ohio being the asshole of the
I
world.
Yeah, well, no, Ohio is definitely like a lot worse. But you do see that all great backstories start in Des Moines or somewhere in Iowa.
It's true.
So
That
I'm
is
just saying,
true.
I'm putting that energy out there.
Yeah.
I'm from Cedar Rapids,
whatever,
so let's.
Well, honestly, that's what I'm kind of surprised that you guys like this show so much because one of the reasons I like it is because it's such a blatant. Well, no, listen to what I'm saying. It's such a blatant satire of the stuff that you guys like. Like it's so clearly making fun of the Justice League. It's so clearly making fun of the corporatization of like DC and Marvel. Like. The whole like movie they make that's supposed to be the Justice League.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
like it's so dumb, and that's why I like it. And I also think one of the funniest bits was they take a really big pot shot at Marvel, which I appreciate with the performative wokeness with like the girls get it done.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I think that's why I love it so much. It's so smart. It's like so like. Really smart satire and comedy. So I was
here's
confused.
The thing, Caleb, is like we can enjoy our stuff, but we can also enjoy pot shots.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that you thought I was so one-dimensional. Oh, that's where we're at, huh? Okay.
No, I just mean like if I was watching something that was like ripping apart my favorite thing, I would be like less engaged in it. That's all I meant. Like
yeah, but no, it's so well done that it's not. You know what I mean? Like it's just so fucking well done.
Yeah, I think we understand the criticisms behind DC. That's why we're not.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
So you just give them your money anyway.
Why not? Like yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I like to enjoy things.
I do too. That's why I can't watch those movies.
Well, because I understand.
Not enjoyable.
For instance, Aquaman is always the butt of the jokes.
I do like to enjoy things.
Sorry, I cut you guys off. You guys banned.
No, we're gonna get into just a fight.
No, so like Aquaman is always the butt of the joke. Like they started writing that into the comic books because it's such a weird superpower, right? Like it's so he talks to fucking fish.
When he's riding the whale.
Yeah, it's funny,
dude. And they just drive the boat right through the whale.
Dude, it's amazing.
Who is it? Huey, right? Is in the whale. He's like, you can just leave me in here.
Yeah, he's so in shock. It's
crazy. I do want to talk about that kid for a minute. He's, I think, just doing such an incredible fucking job. Like, I don't know. What a great first thing to come out with, you know?
Well, his first thing was Hunger Games.
Who the hell was he in Hunger Games?
Like one of the people that Jennifer Lawrence kills. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie once many years ago. But I mean, he's not like an actor. You know what I mean? In the way that like oh, some kid that like auditioned and got lucky. He's the fucking Meg Ryan and Randy Quaid's kid. You know what I mean?
Like, I don't care. He's doing a good job.
Him and Starlight are my least favorite. That's like my least favorite storyline.
They are.
I like him.
I think it's just like boring.
We did notice whenever their scenes would come up, like their awkward kind of
it's like time to check my phone.
It is. I did see or like feel little dips in the action and like the driving,
the energy.
Yeah, the energy, and I think it's because
it's
it's written that way. But it's like I feel that there's obviously the tension there because for the longest time it's like okay, great, Starlight's going off with them, but like how soon is it going to be until Homelander like figures it out or whatever? Like there's that tension there. But then like the budding relationship, it just kind of felt like I just didn't know if it was just how it was written, like if the characters just didn't know how to.
Well, in my opinion, it's because every other aspect of the show and every other storyline is such a visceral, biting like satire. Yeah. And they're taking that relationship and they're playing it like kind of straight and they're trying to like be an earnest love story, but it like doesn't fit with the rest of the aesthetic of the show.
That's
what
I was gonna. But okay, that's interesting to say. I was just gonna ask you that, right? Because like as a writer, you need something like that, right? You got to have those reprieves in these hour episodes.
I mean, yeah, but like I think it depends on how you structure each like scene. Like you can have it all kind of be the same tone, but like so like in my opinion, a better version in the same show is when they handle Queen Maeve and her girlfriend. Like it's the same kind of thing, but the message is still the same at the end where like you're like, oh, you let all these fucking people die in a plane crash. I have to fuck. I can't be with you. And then she like is like depressed.
Bringing that back in the second season.
Yeah, again, it was really smart. Right? So that's what I mean. And like with the Huey and Star, it's just like like they want to be together, but they can't be. They have to keep it a secret. But then they end up just helping each other anyway. But then she like leaves him. But then they don't. It just doesn't fit, in my opinion. I know what you mean. But that's I think it's fine, but it's the weakest element of the show, in my opinion. Because then you got shit like Billy Butcher and his fucking dad, which is great, and you got fucking A-Train, and then his like, this is season 1, but his fucking girlfriend crushing that dude's head with her ass.
Well, and then like all of that though, like him killing her, like
and then he kills her. And then he comes back after a heart attack, and then he gets blackmailed.
Well, for me, like especially. Speaking of Queen Maeve and like the fact that like she gets outed essentially, right? And
which is fucked up.
Which is a whole thing.
Is what happened in the X-Men, by the way. That's what happened to Ellen Page. Is she got outed by Brett Ratner in X-Men 3. So that was a direct callback to that.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen X-Men 3 in a long time.
That is fucked up.
Well, as someone who was outed, it's like it's not the best feeling in the world. But I was talking to Caleb right away that it's so interesting because as inclusive and as diverse as this cast is, what's interesting, what I find is that the representation of just gay men in the like there's always a lesbian couple. It's always I feel like in like CW shows, which all have gay characters in it, gay men, but you never see their spouses. You never see them with another man. You just hear about it, which I think it's still a part. It's still representation, but like something like even with like Amazon and stuff like that, it always seems to be a lesbian on-screen representation of.
I'm trying to think.
Well, I think that's because, and I think we did talk about this because I think that's part of the commentary. Because in America and the world, lesbianism is sort of eroticized and like it's sort of like viewed as like pornographic, and as opposed to homosexual male relationships is much more of like, oh, if you want that, it has to be a depressing art house movie. Right. That's the only way people will watch it. And I think it's just a trend. And so I think that's part of what they're doing. But I do agree that is something that's unfortunate. And I wish that they had they'd been able to do something differently. Because it's always like, oh, they're getting blackmailed. Like, or like, oh, like it's like a secret.
Yeah. See, I'm just trying to run it through my head of like, because you're right. Like I'm running through all the CW shows in my head to like, think about it.
Yeah.
Like,
all the gay relationships you see on screen are between two women. It's never between two men. Maybe the detective or the commissioner for the Flash, like the mayor or whoever.
So I was thinking that, but I don't know if you ever see his husband, and if you do, like it's a little bit.
Same thing with Mr. Terrific. I don't think you ever see his.
I didn't finish watching it through. Riverdale, I know they have a bunch of stuff going on.
Oh, that's not the same.
That's not the same because you're purposely trying to hit every relationship across the board.
That's like 13 Reasons Why level of like performative.
That's what I'm saying.
Where every single character is now gay. I don't know if you guys are keeping up with that show. It's the funniest show in the world. It's so good. You guys got to check it out.
I can't.
But yeah, that was my only kind of criticism with like, hopefully in the future we're going to kind of get to that point as well. But it is something to kind of note with these types of shows is that it always, you can say, oh yeah, we have LGBTQ people in the show. Well, sure, lesbians, great, but where's that?
Who cares?
Yes, Simon type of thing. Not like verbatim Yes Simon, because that was a very teen movie like love story. But what I mean.
Going the other way, even like going to more like middle age, like you would think we would see it so much more after Modern Family. I mean, Cam and they were the best part of that
Modern
show.
Family was a great
Not in superhero stuff, though, and I'm going to tell you why. Because all of that is marketed to China. Because the foreign market is where all of the action blockbuster movies make their money, and China literally has a no ghosts, no gays policy. You can't have ghosts and you can't have gays in your movie or they won't screen it. And that's real. And that's why I fucking hate all of this fucking Marvel DC shit, because they don't actually care about the industry. They don't actually care about morals. They're trying to market to a foreign
make sure they make their money.
country to make their money.
Ezra Miller's The Flash.
Ezra Miller, what do you mean? He's not, The Flash isn't gay though. That character.
No, Ezra Miller's gay.
That doesn't matter.
I'm sure they're still selling The Flash in China, and it doesn't.
Yeah, well, no, I'm talking about the characters.
They don't care if the actor is gay. Okay, I gotcha. Sorry, I was confused.
You can't portray.
Also, he's not gay. He calls himself like. He did an interview. He's like queer, which is not. I'm not saying that's like bad, but it's different. And he says.
Oh no! Also, like, yeah, I apologize if I've missed.
Mostly has had female. It's not the same thing as like, Brokeback Mountain is what I'm saying.
No. I apologize if I've
it's not you.
Labeled anybody. That was not my intention.
Yeah, careful, because he'll come beat the shit out of you.
Hey, man.
In a flash.
I love.
We got him on tape.
I thought
we got him
great.
on tape. He'll come and smack somebody. So you got to watch what you say.
Hey man, that just went away. So it is what it is, I guess. I don't know.
What's funny is like I want to double back real quick to the boys and the relationships on screen versus Starlight and Danny? No. What's the character's name? Huey.
Yeah.
But like Frenchie and Kimiko, I thought was a great story arc, relationship building type of like example for, in my opinion, like him struggling like to communicate and wanting to communicate.
It's kind of okay.
Versus Huey and Starlight.
I'll say for that, season 2 I think they handled it better. Because in season 1 it was just so like, it's like the quiet Asian, like the silent Asian stereotype.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like being really weird about. I just felt like in season 1 it was handled so strangely. Like he was very clearly like fetishizing her and like trying to. I was just like, I don't understand. So I like this season that she was kind of like told him to fuck off and like had a lot more agency and like the story with her brother.
Well, and you found out more about her background.
Yeah, and then they sort of like reached a more sort of equal understanding.
You also find out why Frenchie was like that. By the way, Frenchie might be my favorite character in the show.
He's a great, that actor
fucking awesome.
Fantastic.
He does a good job. He had some interesting stuff going on with the Lamplighter, which we haven't talked about.
Okay. Also, so I love that. I messaged you guys immediately. That was as I was watching it this morning when that message came in about Lamplighter.
Yeah.
So,
sorry. So I didn't mean to spoil it for you. Then I apologize.
No. I messaged you as soon as like it was like a little after I'd already seen everything. But yeah. Okay. So my favorite thing is that he's even got like the pyro Zippo. They went that far because it's. He played Iceman in the X-Men movies, and that's my favorite shit ever.
Yeah, it was very clearly stunt casting, and I liked how they handled his whole because in the comics that's the character that I mentioned earlier that like he fucks up, and so they chain him up in the basement and they feed him his shit, and he's just like left as like a reminder about not to whatever. It's so
but
over the top.
Before or after?
After. What do you mean?
So like
I'm saying they don't like he doesn't it's totally different in the comics. Like
so he's just been gone the whole time because he's been locked up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I like that they did not that and they had him kind of watching the porn and then he fucking self-immolates. It's great. Yeah. He's a fun little 3-episode arc.
Well, as soon as I saw that it was like Aaron Ashmore or whatever, I was like, okay, well, who are you? Because he pops up on that phone call. And I was like, well,
yeah.
Because he's a Canadian actor, so he was one of those guys that was on everything that was like on here when I was
Well,
growing
doesn't he
up.
have a twin?
Yeah, so it's actually both of them were on everything. So it was even more, you'd see them everywhere. So I don't actually know if, I assume that he was the one who played Iceman. Either way.
No, it's the one that played Iceman for sure.
But so, yeah, so
Are
they
you
were
sure
both.
though? They're
Yes,
twins.
I am.
But
I'm
so
positive.
they were both in everything, you know, when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw him, I was like, okay, who are you?
Were they in the Canadian version of Parent Trap?
No.
Were they-
Parent Trap was filmed in Toronto.
Were they the Lindsay Lohan in the Canadian version of Parent Trap?
Lindsay, that house is like in the middle of Toronto.
That house.
The house that looks like it's. I'm gonna kick you.
It just came out. It doesn't come out, but whenever it does come out, I gotta let
That's
you know.
fair. That's fair.
I did real quick. I watched the Shawn Mendes kind of documentary that came out 2 days ago.
Was it good?
It was fine. It just talked about his like last tour or whatever. But like he did say, I get to see this stadium, eh? Isn't it cool, eh? And I was like, oh yeah, Shawn Mendes,
Canada, America's hat.
So,
but
fucking hat that's not on fire.
So, okay, real quick. You and Sarah both keep doing this thing where you'll be like, Canada burned down the White House, which isn't true because I looked it up. Canada wasn't a nation yet. It was just part of the British Army, you fucking idiot.
Whatever,
Canada,
same.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing at all.
It is kind of the same, though.
It isn't whatsoever. Anyway,
Hey, man,
sorry. We'll probably just cut this part
You're
out.
just
But
talking logistics and facts, and that doesn't matter.
I guess in this post-Trump era, facts really don't matter.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Who cares
Whatever.
about the truth?
You can
Anyway,
make
are we
your
done
own
talking
truth.
about The Boys? It's great. I think
Please
overall
check
I'd
it
rate
out.
it in like an 8
I
out
thought
of
it
10, like a
was
4 out of 5.
fucking awesome. I'm so excited for it to come out. The one thing I want to say is, so there's that one character they talk about at one point. It's like the super soldier character, and they explain that it was like, you know, the Captain America type.
Okay.
They're talking about him, but that character, bringing that character into season 3, and it's like a super douchey Captain America type, and the guy they got is Jensen Ackles from Supernatural, and that's going to be
Didn't that show just end? And
It
people
just
are mad
ended.
about it? Yeah.
after
After
15
what?
seasons. 15 seasons.
35,000.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
to be clear, it
7
should have ended a long time ago.
You know what, man? I kind of always kept up with it. You know how I do with like YouTube clips and stuff, to streamline things sometimes, because there's a lot of that. And like the general storylines of the last while have been interesting and good. You know, they just kept making things bigger and bigger. But it's just one of those things that it's like, all right, if you like this show, you're just gonna keep putting it on. You know what I mean?
The fact that like the legends on CW was able to write in like a pot shot to Supernatural. They went into like whatever timeline, whatever they were going to, and then all the like Supernatural crew was dead. And they're like, wait, that show's still going on? Like it's like a little bit 10-second thing, but
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's been on forever.
Oh yeah,
You know,
like
just like Grey's Anatomy is going to go on for 40 seasons. So,
But dude, like the craziest thing is that show ends, so he's immediately like on The Boys, and then the other guy is Texas Walker. They're doing
There you
that
go.
show. So
Walker, Texas Ranger, you mean?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Walker, Texas Ranger.
Texas
oh, they're
Walker.
rebooting that.
It's the story of an old geriatric fucking Texas trying to survive in a nursing home. I'd watch that show.
So,
Should we move on just because we got so much to talk about?
right,
Yeah, we
all
do.
right.
Sorry, that was a good. Please check out The
Ooh.
Boys.
Yeah,
The
Boys is
Boys.
great. I no idea when they're going to make more because they obviously nothing's
There's
filming. You can't film that show right now.
Films in Toronto. They're starting filming soon.
I thought you guys just shut down again.
Not filming. Filming's still open because filming's killing
really?
Because it's all, well, it's a lot of it. The bigger productions are, you know, co-productions with America.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
I mean,
That makes
like I
sense.
said, I was on set for a few days and I got tested every 2 days.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, maybe we'll see it
So.
soon. I have no idea what they're going to fucking do because now Huey's working for the head exploding lady. So we'll see.
Well, and Butcher might have his own team, and yeah. So dope.
I don't know.
So
Anyway, so
dope.
Brandon wanted us to watch a stupid fucking show about chess.
I'm going to karate chop you.
Not from over there, you can't. Not online, baby. I'm safe.
I'll
But
karate
hey-
chop you.
Yeah, do it, Josh.
No, it's fine. Tell us about the Queen's Gambit, Brandon.
Well, you know, I think probably most people have heard about it by now. It's a limited series on Netflix. And I thought I loved it. I mean, I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just very, very well done. Great story. I really appreciated the ending. I'm interested to see what you guys think. There was certain things about the ending that I really liked. Like I said before, kind of not taking the bait with easy outs. And then I thought the acting was fucking unreal. I thought she was fantastic. You know,
I will say that the general, like the overall arc from start to finish of of the lead actress, the character, I thought was good. You know, I thought when I go back and I think about where she started from to where she ended, I could see that growth, and I could be like, okay, cool. Like we talked about in The Boys, predictability, not always bad. And this one, although predictable, like you have to have that last chess match. You know, I mean, that's just, if you don't do that, then I'm just like, well, why am I even caring? Because I want to see her play Boryov or whatever the Russian guy is. And there were some callbacks to earlier episodes, like different repetition of lines, and the guy with the crazy hair. I didn't even realize that he was like the subject of a book that she really enjoyed. That she had to play with, so that was kind of cool, and it gave me the good feels at the end, you know. But
what I liked about that end, exactly, Josh, what you're talking about, is the way that each one of those matches went, and they've built up this whole patriotic, them versus them thing, and they're just chess players, and that's what I really liked about the ending. They didn't take the bait of the Russian U.S. stuff. I
will say that
because that's been done, and we're never going to get better than Rocky IV
or Miracle.
I'm getting mad.
Do you not like Rocky IV?
I love Rocky IV.
I think it's fucking awesome.
Who doesn't like Dolph?
Rocky introduced capitalism to Russia by beating the shit out of Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, and then they
communism's over.
They all chanted Rocky.
I will say, originally when I dabbled into Queen's Gambit, Ryan had started it, and I went into episode 2, and I started watching it right after the whole adoption thing. So I was completely fucking lost. I was like, wait, why is the mom treating her daughter like this or whatever? And then when I literally went back to watch the first epised, I was like, there's all the information I need.
Oh wow, imagine that. Starting from the beginning is what you should do for a TV show. That's
exactly. Crazy. Because this was before I realized that we were going to do it for the podcast. So
I'm just busting your balls. I just think that's funny. Why don't I understand what's going on in episode 2 of the show that I haven't seen the first one for? Man.
Caleb, what'd you think?
I mean, I'm not as crazy about it as you guys. In my opinion...
I didn't say I was crazy about it. I'm just saying these are the good things that
I'm so sorry.
Appreciated.
Well, the thing that I find the most impressive, apparently, I don't know jack shit about chess. I don't think I've played a chess game in my entire life. But what I do understand about having looked it up is apparently they hired consultants. And so every game and every move is very accurate and and that's all done really well. So I applaud the show for kind of going there because they could have easily not done that and most people wouldn't have noticed.
Well, as somebody who plays chess too, it made the show 19 times more engaging because you're actually trying to, I play chess. I'm not great at chess, so I'm trying to follow as she's learning things.
So you understand all these fucking things they're saying.
I understand the moves.
Yes, that's crazy because it all made fucking no sense. You could have told me they made it up. I would have been like, okay, I have no idea.
It's all
what I didn't realize though is when they say that it's a strategist game or whatever. What I didn't realize and what I learned throughout and I found very interesting was the fact that there's names to all of these maneuvers and things like that. There's a reason you play. I just was I know how the pieces move and I know who can, how check and checkmate work. But I had no idea that you're literally, and this is what people do. You plan 10 steps ahead, depending on what, your next move depends on what they do. Right. And in your mind, everything that's going on. And it's crazy. Cause what I mean is instead of being oh, he moved his pawn here instead of here, I'm going to do the closed gambit or the open gambit. I didn't know that kind of shit. Yeah. But it's crazy. It's
one of the, I mean, well, so part of the reason, in my opinion, I don't think the writing is very good. And that's kind of where my issues sort of begin and end. I would agree that the acting is what saves it for me. The acting and the dedication to accurately portraying the game.
Right.
Those are, in my opinion, what the two standouts of the show are. I think it looks very drab. It's very boring to watch, in my opinion.
See, that's so interesting. I felt the opposite. And maybe it was for me the editing stuff that got me, the chessboards on the ceiling. Things like that I thought were so impressive.
For every instance where that happens, it's just fucking boring shots of people walking around rooms. I think they put a lot of effort into certain specific moments, but then the majority of the show... Because it's a TV show and it's fucking 7 hours long. So what do there's a lot of just fucking static shots of people walking or sitting down.
I think a lot
talking,
of the energy,
a lot of shot reverse shot. It's not very interesting to look at, and the color palette's very brown, in my opinion.
It's very muted.
It's definitely very brown.
But I loved her. I mean, obviously she's great. Like we've been known that she's good since The Witch and Peaky Blinders. Like she's always good.
We talked about this with Peaky Blinders season 5, I think, on the podcast, where she comes in like a fucking wrecking ball. You know, she's the only person to be able to, you know, stand in a room with the actress who plays Polly and like the character, and have that same weight.
It's so funny because Peaky Blinders changed their like poster on Netflix to her.
Oh, did they? Did they?
Because it used to be the guys standing there or whatever.
But I don't know. I thought the first episode was fucking awful. It was just so boring. That little girl could not act to save her fucking life. And it was just like, I was just so uninterested. I didn't care. And the reason I feel like for me, and I know it's based on a book and I know it's adapted from something. I don't know if it's faithful to the source material at all. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But my experience watching it felt so fucking manufactured. It's like, okay, not only is she a woman in a male-dominated field, but she's also a genius, but she's also an orphan, but she's also a drug addict, but she's also an alcoholic, but she also has intimacy issues. Also, her adopted mom is dead. Also, like, it's just like, oh my fucking God, lay off, like, relax.
It is, but also, so from what my understanding and like the research I did, it's loosely based on Bobby Fischer's life. So they made, in the book, they've made Bobby Fischer a girl.
Oh, that's fucking dumb. That makes it so much less special then, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then obviously there's like, but like the trajectory of her career follows
exactly like Bobby Fischer. That's what I was wondering, because I was like, this reminds me of Bobby Fischer's story.
So that's what it is. I don't know so
fucking
much.
Dumb, man. Like I like Fischer, it even less now.
Bobby Fischer was adopted, I think, and then obviously like there's a bunch of other stuff because Bobby Fischer went nuts.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure, right?
But so do you understand what I'm saying though? Like how it feels very like we're gonna pack as much trauma as we can into her backstory,
so that the end. Well, and then I think that's a vehicle for the ending to pay off more. Like when she wins, it's like, oh cool, she did it, right?
But was there ever a doubt that I never had one doubt that she wasn't going to.
Right. No, that's what I mean by the predictability. Is like you knew she was going to rematch and she had to win. Everyone's been talking her up this whole time. She's already lost twice to him.
But the win is
third time's the charm.
The win is, in my opinion, finding like a home at the end and being comfortable in Russia with people,
which is so fucking crazy. She gets out of the car and they're like, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna hang out in Russia now. I guess I'm Russian." I was like, "Oh, okay." And
she just said go for a walk. We don't know that for sure.
Well, the guy was like, "You're gonna miss your flight," and then she sits down to play a fucking chess game. Like she's not getting on that flight.
But she's super loaded. She can do whatever she wants. She's the world champ.
I'm just saying, it was funny. I found it to be like, I don't think that, I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense, but I found that the writing was not clever enough to hide the fact that I was watching the seams of its construction. Like it felt very much that they were like trying to make a story about a young woman succeeding against all odds.
No, I understand.
I was
that.
like, and I couldn't get invested.
I was reason. Like you said, for me, and you guys know how I get, but the acting was, I would have watched her all day doing
how
that,
fucking funny. I think ultimately he did a good job, but like when the fucking kid from Game of Thrones showed up in the cowboy outfit, he was
fucking great, man.
He's a good actor, but I just don't. He looks fucking 16, and he's never not going to look 16. And he had this awful fucking facial hair, and he had his cowboy hat and his duster. I was like, who? You look like you're a fucking Halloween costume. Like, what are you doing?
But I ended up, I bought it by the end of it.
I didn't. I wouldn't go so far as to say I bought it, but I do think he did a good performance. Like I thought that character was well done.
I liked the episode,
but I never bought it. He looked like a fucking cartoon. It was ridiculous.
The episode with him, like the New York City episode, although like somewhat of a filler, but like, I guess she learns how to like play speed chess is the thing. But you know, him in the t-shirt, I like him better like towards the end, and him coaching her and like that kind of stuff worked for me.
In his awful New York basement apartment, I was like, that rings true.
Yeah, I was like, that is accurate.
I was like, and then Dudley's like trying the American accent.
Dudley Dursley. Yeah, he was great.
He's been
blowing up. He's in everything on Netflix now. I wonder if he has a deal because he was in the Coen Brothers movie. He was in the Tom Holland movie, and now he's in this. I'm like, good for you, man.
I want to mention too that I think people have talked more about. I think is the production design, the set design, the whatever the prop design, whatever you call it, art direction, with it, where like, you know, it's based in it's the 60s, right?
50s
and so
60s,
50s and 60s. And so it's funny watching these types of TV shows and movies is that there seems to have been like a lens put on, like a filter put on it, where it looks almost very muted.
Yeah, it was.
And it was very with the music. It was very Downton Abbey type of like with the piano and the fast thing between scenes and transitions. But it was like, you know, with her red hair, very bright red hair. Obviously, at the end, she's in her white outfit. She's the White Queen. That's what I got out of it, you know, because she played white to beat the guy.
Yeah, I did it, but that's apt.
You know, it's so.
And all the Russian men are like, Armand!
Yeah.
Elizabeth Armand!
So you got to look at like the design and I have to think that, you know, where does it fall where, you know, when you do a period piece and everyone just talks about the clothing and the design and the costumes and how accurate they are from 60 years ago or whatever. And it's like, sure, you can do that research and you can like make sure you got the proper time magazine. The magazines look well, like accurate, and the furniture and the everyone, you know, but it's only impressive for like the first couple episodes. Then I'm just like, now it's just like a muted brown,
exactly. And like, well, also I think what would have helped with the period accuracy, because I guess like visually, sure, but like they didn't do the work to do the dialogue. Like all the dialogue just sounds like it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, it was hard for me to get invested when I was like, oh, like they're just speaking like people. They were speaking like characters that were written in 2020 would speak. And I just, it was like.
You know, I didn't find that with Toombs.
Towns,
yeah. I thought
you can tell that he's English because he sounds exactly like Henry Cavill when he does his American accent.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't think about that.
That's the only thing, because he looks kind of like him too. That's the only thing.
He must have the same voice coach.
Speaking of, thank you for pointing that out. I totally missed our boy Tim there because he looks different than
Tim Kalkoff with the
friend of the show, Tim Kalkoff, and his green little Speedo, his cute little butt.
Yeah, he's like fucking jacked, and he's like, "I'll see you later."
And it's so random because like I was like, "Oh, I know that person."
Yeah,
and it was just one scene.
It's funny because he was like, "Yeah, I just have this new, like Queen's Gambit's coming out, and I have a little scene in there, so you guys have checked me out." I was like, all right, we'll see. And I was kind of waiting. I was like, is he one of the chess players? What is he? And he fucking blew my mind. I was like, yeah, of course. Perfect.
Great fucking
come
scene.
in with a little lover.
Great character.
So
that was great, Tim.
It was, yeah, I mean, every time I watch periods pieces like this, I always think the amount of things that we got away with, like, how did anybody survive the, like, before modern anything? Like, it's like we have all these laws against smoking in like establishments and planes and shit like that. And it's like, we forget that for decades upon decades, people smoked in these like pressurized tubes in the air. It was and like nobody even like thought about like
completely legal to give children tranquilizers.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. And it's just so funny because I'm just sitting here going, how did anybody survive?
Well, a lot of people didn't, Josh, and that's why there's laws now.
I stand corrected on the podcast.
I don't know. I think maybe I went into it with higher expectations because everybody was like, "Oh, it's the amazing 5-star." It's just like completely fine to me.
Yeah, it's fine. I agree.
But I can see. Are you okay? I'm sorry. I can't. I cannot ignore this anymore.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I just got a sore muscle.
But like you look like you're in real pain. Are you sure?
Oh no. I'm just like massaging it. That's all.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah, everybody was kind of giving unreal praise to this, and I think it's just okay, in my opinion. But I can see why Brandon is somebody who's invested in this game.
Well, yeah, that definitely helped a lot. And then, but it is that type of show with the tone that always gets me. Anything with that kind of intensity, with we've talked about this, but where the character is methodical and thinking, and it's in their head, I love that shit. So that's always gonna get me anyway. But I also, when I first saw it, I didn't have any expectations.
Yeah.
So I turned it on, and this little girl starts playing chess, and I'm like, ooh, what's happening? All right.
He was great. I love Bill Camp, by the way, the person who taught her, because he's in a lot of stuff, and he's kind of like, oh, that guy in this thing. And he doesn't have like a big part in this, but I've always really enjoyed him, and I thought he did a wonderful job.
Very memorable part, though. Very memorable part in it.
Yeah, I mean,
you resign now.
I think it was a little bit too obvious with all the bringing back all the characters pretty much in one way or another towards the end to make her realize that.
It was so cheesy when they're all on the phone.
I loved it.
I know you do because you're a fucking cornball.
But like, for me, like I do that. Well, what kind of with Brandon, it did make me feel like the good feels, right? Like I was like, aw, that's nice. Like good for her.
She has a team.
But is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know.
I think it's a taste thing. Like for me, I was like gonna vomit. I was like, oh, it's so fucking saccharine. Because it is very like she meets the guy and they have I felt that would have been enough. Like she sees him in Russia and they hug and it's like,
Absolutely.
oh, they have like, and then he's like,
yeah.
I've got them all. I've got all your friends on the phone on the other line. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up.
So essentially, she cheated.
But no, because they had to. Because then you watch and then you look at screenwriting is like because they knew, oh, we can't actually have it be because of them because then people will think she didn't do it on her own. So they have that scene where Borgov is like, oh, he did a move that he wasn't supposed to do. We couldn't have planned for this, and then she fucking wins anyway because she's a fucking genius or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Who cares? And then she wins. And then what I thought was interesting though is they never do the easy thing and have the men she's playing against be like, oh, fucking girl.
I loved that.
Yeah, they all treat her with respect and they all say, you are a great chess player.
That was my favorite part.
And it was very interesting because I expected it to be the complete other way. And there are definitely, like, especially when she's younger, like Dursley definitely underestimates her, but at the end he's like, you're fucking way better than me. And even fucking Mr. Cowboy is like, you're the best chess player in the world.
Yeah. He's like, I'm only beating you because you do the same thing. You know, it's like that's a speed chess thing, right? Yeah. Like where you have that moment where he's like, yeah, but it's speed chess. You don't have time to like, I do this all the time with my friends. Like, this is why I'm beating you. Don't get frustrated because you can't win at speed chess when you don't have time to think.
The fucking guy who looks like Steve Wozniak with the crazy hair.
What'd you guys think of the little tidbit of her sleeping with Chloe?
Again, it was like, oh, she's also bisexual. She's a bisexual drug addict orphan. Like, you know, it's just like enough with this shit. Yeah. But it felt manufactured to me.
Especially that because it was the cut from the beginning to the end. It was like
shouldn't have done that. I hate that shit. Start where your stories begin. First thing we should have been that car crash, in my opinion. Oh,
interesting. Yeah, because I did the same thing that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. It's like, wow, yeah.
Enough
Paris, 1967. All of a sudden, she's a kid again.
Because you have to make sure that you know that she's alcoholic and a chess player. And then because those are the first two things. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I actually kind of now that we're talking about it, because I do generally dislike that, but in this case, it being a limited series, it's telling you where it's ending, and that might be the more important part.
But I'm gonna watch it. Yeah. I'm watching your show. I know where it's gonna end. I don't care about that. It also wasn't the ending. It was like the penultimate. It was like
what's important. Game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But no, back to what you were saying, Caleb. That was my favorite part. Was that Borgov and the other guy and all the main guys. It wasn't this like. It wasn't the man versus woman thing. It wasn't the Russia versus America thing. It was, you are the best chess player I've ever seen. Congratulations. And like the other guy being like, you're magnificent. And, him, whatever he did, like he tugged her and retired. The whole thing was just, I like that they didn't take any of the easy shots there. Or any of what would have been easy, Just
took easy shots everywhere else.
but the thing is, man, even like the Bobby Fischer thing, like his actual story goes that he thought the Russians were spying on him and like lost his mind.
Well, because he was a fucking paranoid schizophrenic. He had a diagnosable mental issue, and I think that this show was like trying not to put that
right.
Like,
exactly.
They can't say that she was crazy because then people will get upset. So it was just like it was just interesting. I think it's fine. I get why people like it. For me, it's a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 4 for me. I really enjoyed it.
3.5. But I'll say, like, with the boys, I had 4, definitely.
Yeah, I'm
boys across
for me.
Boys across 2 seasons is a solid 4, I think, considering everything. Yeah. And I'm excited to see where they go.
I'm so excited for the next season.
Anyway, I don't know how long we have left, but I think it's time. I don't think we can put this off anymore.
I actually gotta go.
Oh, do you have to go?
You have a hard out at 11:48.
I'll talk about it by myself. I don't care.
You know what? I can't let that happen, so I'm gonna stay.
So it was my turn, and I know that every 3 weeks everyone dreads my turn.
Oh, it's not true.
It's always weird shit that nobody.
Yeah, but it's
likes.
always interesting stuff, and I always understand why we're watching it up until now. So
the movie of the week is called Dogtooth. I don't know how to pronounce it in its Greek name. By Yorgos Lanthimos. It was his sophomore film. It was a breakout hit. The way that Cannes Film Festival works is that there's the main competition for the Palme d'Or, and I'm going to butcher this because I don't speak French, but there's the parallel competition called Un Certain Regard. I don't know how you would say that in French. And it's for like it's they call it unconventional narratives. So it's basically all the weird shit.
That's funny.
And so this won that prize in the weirdo competition that year. And then it surprised everybody by getting nominated for Best Picture or Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. And it kind of launched Yorgos's career internationally. And he's gone on to make films like The Lobster and The Favorite, which are both movies that I really adore.
Yeah.
And he's sort of known. This was kind of how he got started with. In my opinion, he would go on to perfect the style. But this is emblematic of his balance of like absurdity. Absurd comedy, and then also really like dark, disturbing sort of subject matter. This film is, I think it straddles that line. It's like a black comedy, but it's also really fucked up. And it tells the story of a Greek family that has isolated their children from the world and are lying to them and presenting a sort of alternate reality to how the world actually works. And slowly, the children start to gain autonomy and try to find a way out of that. I think this movie's great. I'm curious to know now how you feel. And I know Brandon's raring to go.
Brandon, do you want to go first or want me to go first? I could be a good segue into...
I want you to go first.
Okay. So, last episode, when Caleb mentioned this movie... He said that our good friend Julia Cameron Wilson liked this movie, and knowing her, I was like, okay, interesting. Like, I look forward to what's gonna happen. And I was surprised, but I also wasn't at the same time. Like, of course. So my thing with it is, I will start off. It's not my cup of tea, right? I definitely went into it with a very open mind, and I watched it all the way through. And I just didn't think it was just strange. But then with the Cannes Film Festival, like that category totally makes sense because I want to ask you, Caleb, the type of acting that was involved where it's hard for me to distinguish between whether it was a choice by the actors for the characters to not really kind of have any real emotion or expressive anything throughout it. Or was it just the fact that they were just kind of, they weren't actors or whatever playing these siblings, because it was very awkward at a lot of moments. The way they, like, even in Greek, the way they expressed, like, spoke the lines and addressed the lines with intention or whatever, I just thought it felt flat in some aspects of it while they were talking to each other.
Yeah, I
thought some of the physicality in it, like especially with them with the dogs and things like that, and the dad I thought did a really good job, like kind of portraying this character, this very oppressive father figure of like how they do their lessons and things like that. And even with the mother and her role in the whole thing and playing along so that the children don't suspect anything, it's like that was all well done and it all made sense and logical. And every choice that the father made sense within the situation of the movie, even with the incest towards the end. It made sense for the world that he was building for his children when he couldn't bring in any more people from the outside because he couldn't trust them, right?
Yeah.
That all made sense. But then my question, what your thoughts on the acting and like the lack of any kind of underbelly?
Well, I mean, if you watch like all of his other stuff, like especially stuff like The Lobster or The Favorite or Killing of a Sacred Deer, where it's more obvious because they are in English, it's very much his style. Like everything's very blunt, everything's very dry, everything's very just like kind of like no matter like how insane the things they're saying and doing are, it's presented in a very like just like truthful, straightforward way. And that's, in my opinion, where like the absurdity comes in, and that's like where the comedy kind of comes in. So I've seen enough of his kind of filmography to be confident that that's like a intentional choice.
Cool. Yeah.
But sorry. Brandon's been waiting. I want to know. I gotta know.
I just don't care about any of it at all from the beginning. Even like I didn't want to interrupt, but like Josh, what you were saying there with like everything the dad does in the movie makes sense. I just don't know why he's doing any of this or care. You know what I mean? And it's like the whole thing just seems masturbatory to me. I don't know. I just like, it's not my cup of tea. I just don't care about any of it. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? You know,
masturbatory. I'm curious that choice of words.
Just it felt very like I want to make something that's weird, and that's cool. And like, there's parts of it that like, and that's the thing. I'm a fan of his other movies, so I see where this leads to. So like, I like that he did it, but I don't need to watch it.
You're just curious as to why we needed to be told this story.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're kind of?
Yeah. This just doesn't feel like a point to me.
Well, I think, in my opinion, I totally understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? I do think, like I said earlier, he would go on to kind of perfect like this style. Like I think like The Favorite and The Lobster are like much better versions of this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
But I definitely think there is a point, and I am happy to share my thoughts.
Yeah,
like
I think there's points. I just don't think it's anything that like the point that like people need to be sociable and not locked up is like pretty fucking obvious.
Well, I mean, I feel that the movie is kind of commenting on the very real issue that's kind of going on in lots of different cultures around the world, where it's like you sort of like people sort of have a lot of freedom to kind of treat their kids however they want. Like it's very like permissible across lots of different cultures to essentially abuse your children like this. Like even in America, there's like lots of sort of stories you hear about parents just completely isolating their children from the world and like not teaching them how it works at all, and not sort of being honest with the reality that like, you know,
it's kind of taboo to like step in. Like you don't have a right to tell me how to treat my children.
Yeah,
like,
but
it's like completely.
So that point right there, which I agree is a very clear point. We just saw them do that in The Boys, and it was 9 times more entertaining.
For you,
I guess.
In your opinion,
yeah, I guess.
I think. I mean, entertaining is an interest. I mean, I don't know how to like argue with that because that's your taste. For me, like, I think this is going for a very different tone, obviously, and I think like, you know, it's completely legal in this country, in America, to tell your kids like, hey, you know, just for experiencing the very natural body processes of like going through puberty and discovering your sexuality, you're going to burn in a pit of fire for all eternity. You're completely allowed to do that. In different cultures around the world.
Conversion therapy is still a thing in these states, isn't it?
Yeah, they just overturned the law banning it in Florida, which is
is that what happened? That's horrendous. Why it's in the news? Okay.
It's completely legal in different
Florida.
countries around the world. If you crazy. Even suspect that your daughter is engaging in a romantic relationship outside of marriage, to kill her. That's completely legal to do that. And so I think this movie is kind of commenting on like, you know, they're presenting this story of like these parents that have total control over their children's lives to the point where they are teaching them like the wrong meanings of words to prevent them from discovering certain concepts.
The salt shaker is called the telephone.
The telephone, The sea is like an armchair. That's the concept of like the ocean.
A pussy is a big light.
It's sort of like, you know, but what it leads to is this like really uncomfortable but like funny moments like that. Just to segue, like a pussy is a big light, so they all like look up at the ceiling light, like wow, a pussy. Like it's funny to me. Like it's like fucked up, but it's funny. Like there's so much absurd comedy in this. Like I think it's absolutely hilarious. But at the same turn, it's so fucking disturbing because, in my opinion, this is only a slightly exaggerated version of things that happen every day. Like, it's presented in a very surrealistic, silly, like cinematic language. But, like, I would fully believe that this is happening right now. There was that documentary a couple years ago about that family that was locked up in that Manhattan apartment, all the kids their whole life. It's happening. And so I don't think that there's no point to it in the way that you described. Like, I think there's very much a point.
But
and that's just me.
No, but
it's fine. It's fine if it didn't connect with you, but I'm just saying, like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's extrapolating a lot, you know, which is fair. It's just, I didn't care enough from the top to get any of that because there was I just didn't end up, like, you know what I mean? I didn't connect with the story at all because there was no base work at the beginning because it's so abstract. And I get that. I understand what we're going for here. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate how it's shot. Also, the other thing that kept throwing me off, by the way, is every time there was a sex scene or anything, I was like, well, now I'm thrown off because all I can think about is how did they do this? Was this okay?
I did have a moment of like, you know, because we just talked about with Crash a couple episodes ago, with like the safety underwear and things like that.
That's
There's full on masturbation or like at least working to then have sex with an obviously naked, and the shot was set up in a way where it to me it seemed continuous.
Right. Same.
And I know that there has to have been a way, but also like to think about it though, like this is Greek, right? Like this is an international film,
Mediterranean,
where I feel like there's
like
maybe
culture.
different things that are allowed in cinema.
Saying for me now in 2020,
I'm not saying they had full on sex.
Watching this, but yeah, no, but who knows? But the point is, for me now in 2020, watching this, the idea obviously doing something like that in a movie would be to take you less out of it. It did the opposite, because all then I could think about was the actors and like, was this, what the fuck happened here? Was this all on the up and up? I hope it was. So just for me personally, that put a big gap in the movie. Because I feel like,
you
know what I'm saying?
It's been over a decade. I feel like there was news to be heard. It would have been heard.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's just the way my mind went when I saw that. I was like, oh, that's so unusual. Right. That's
there's
not
like a lot. Yeah, but that's like European film. That happens a lot. Like you think of like, that's
I'm
like,
saying, had I
very
seen
casual attitude
in any movie, like let's say I threw on let's say Nymphomaniac was on TV for some reason, which it wouldn't be, but even that would it was on the up and up. They all talked about it beforehand. You know what I mean? Or I think so, at least. I would have the same reaction now, though. I'd be watching it and being like, was this really cool? Like this all was cool? I don't know. You know what I mean? And
I don't know. I guess I was invested enough that it didn't bother me, because I know going into a Yorgos joint, like there's going to be some weird sex shit.
So, yeah, which is also fair.
I don't know. I don't think it's extrapolation. I think this is that's like the only conclusion to draw from watching this movie. That's like what it clearly has to be about, because I know that he's a good filmmaker, in my opinion. I know he's like a storyteller that's competent and has gone on to prove that with his later works. So I don't think it's just like random shit. And I personally, I was invested because it's like, what the fuck is happening? And you start to piece it together like, oh, like, this is what the story is, like with these little shots of him cutting labels off water bottles, like the little shots of them like hiding the telephone and them like having the sticker game and the whole like story they make up about the brother being dead. And then they have to like get on their hands and knees and start barking like dogs. Because like the cat is the most ferocious animal. I thought that's funny. It's like funny and fucked up. I don't know.
I didn't like follow. So like when there was like an actual older brother that left and they said he died, or what the fuck is going on?
Well, so their whole thing is like, it's dangerous to leave the house.
Well, I'm saying, was there an actual older brother, or they just lied about that from the beginning?
I don't think so. I think
I think it's however you want to interpret it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very interpretable. But I think it's how they clever. They're like, oh, we're going to use this as an opportunity, to teach a lesson. And he like cuts up his clothes. It's like, a cat got me and it killed your brother. And then like, I don't know. And then the airplanes fall from the sky and they have little plastic toys that they throw on the ground because they don't want to acknowledge that airplanes are real. It's interesting to me. I don't know. I think that the way that he constructed the story, because it is ridiculous. But like, I don't know, like Josh, you were saying, like all of their actions given their goal, it's like they're clever and it makes sense how they like construct this fake world for the children.
Yeah, they have the whole incident with Christina, and she's obviously influencing in a certain way the older daughter, not even just the whole lesbian like kind of moment, but like the fact giving her porno so she can learn and like that, and her dad abuses her quite a bit with the VHS or whatever, and like so unapologetic because he's like, how dare you, as punishment. And then so she's forced, so Christina obviously is outed. She gets her head also bashed in by a VCR player. Whatever.
Yeah, and it's like blunt and it's very like startling violence.
It's startling, but that leads to a very logical realization by the father and the mother to be like, obviously we have to keep getting our son, like he's learning his whole thing. So like,
which is
let him go to the sister.
A commentary on international cultures where it's like expected that men experience sexuality, but like the women are kept pure. And it's only as a last resort that they assign one of the sisters to be his sexual partner, which is like fucked up.
Having to like separate ourselves from like our lens as Western civilization, I guess. They would probably be Western civilization, but in terms of American,
he's not presenting any of this as like it's good. Like he's obviously criticizing all this stuff.
I guess that's my point, is that I don't need you to tell me it's not good. It's blatantly not good. You know what I mean? Like that's why I didn't. Because again, I like him as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So for me, I expected more by the end of it. I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. I get this. And knowing that it's, earlier on, it was building to things. It's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But exactly what you're saying, like all of that it's right there. Like I get all of that. It's just, yeah, I know it's bad.
You don't think there's value in exploring, because like, you know, we know that it's bad, but like,
but again, I think that in how he explored it or in how it was explored in the movie just didn't, for me personally, like you were saying before, this story, the way that it was explored didn't grasp me, you know? Because for me, it felt a little more manufactured in that, like, we're putting all these kids here, we're making them the same age so that then you can get into this incest stuff at the end. It just, in the same way, seemed manufactured to me to get to these certain beats and points.
I don't think, in my opinion, nothing about this film seems manufactured. I don't know what committee would sit down and create something like this.
But as a filmmaker, I mean, you're putting out a set of restrictions on your characters, and you're setting those. Okay, so let's say you went into it just with the idea of like you wanted to talk about all those things, right? You have a litany of different things you can do. Like you said, you can put people in The Room, the movie The Room, right?
Okay, yeah,
it's virtually similar ideas, right? For me personally,
The Room. What are you Tommy Wiseau?
No. So no, not that one. The other one, Brie Larson.
Oh, that's just Room. That's not The
Room. Sorry.
Well, it's a big fucking difference. Clearly, based on my reaction. I was like, you're a fucking asshole. You're being a dick if you think that that's what this...
Hilarious. Great reaction. No. Room. You know what I'm saying? But like another kind of that.
All right. Well,
I'm just saying,
I
like, for me, that's a more... if you're going to tell me that point or this general story, right? And obviously I know it's different, but it's similar.
Yeah, I think it's entirely different. I think it's way too different. I hear Brian, I hear what you're
saying, right?
But in my opinion, I feel like it's like kind of apples to oranges to compare the two, because that's a Hollywood movie, and this was made for fucking $100,000 in Greece.
Well, okay,
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then again, like I didn't go into it thinking that way, and that's my point too, right? Yeah. I also, like, a couple things going into it threw me off. As we're talking about it now, like the fact that it was on Shudder, I didn't look at any of it as a comedy, you know, because I didn't think
you didn't think it wasn't funny when they were barking on their hands and knees like dogs. Like, it's absurd.
No, but my headspace wasn't going into it as a comedy because it was on Shudder. That's what I'm saying. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of things that were just like,
I don't know if Shudder's the right avenue for it, but you know what I mean? I think it's plenty disturbing.
No, like but then I only looked at it distributing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. You know? No, it's definitely meant to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think when we say comedy or things that are funny, I think it's more from that lens of uncomfortability, because like the dance was fucking hilarious. Like, no
flash dance. Yeah, when she goes into flash dance and then they just get to beat the shit out of her. It's fucked up, but it's like funny because it's like what is happening? In my opinion.
And same thing with like the kids. You know, it's weird, but like with the Shudder lens, like I wish it was on kind of more. It was on other like streaming platforms, because Shudder is such a weird thing.
Did you guys read the comments too? Like, no. If you go on Shudder, it's a bunch of like 1 stars. Like, what the fuck is this? And it's so funny because like I get it, and I understand this isn't for everybody, and I'm not necessarily trying to like change your mind, Brandon. That I'm to get you to like it, but I personally think that it has a lot of merit. I think more than maybe people are giving it.
But I think that, and I think this is fair. I just think it goes. It's interesting where. I think a lot of that merit comes in you knowing the filmmaker, which is completely fair, and it's the same for me. But for me, it's going the opposite way. It's because I know the filmmaker. I just expected more. I expected something at the end, Well,
I want to talk about that because I found what I noticed. I was surprised on how long it took for one of the kids to finally, and of course it's the oldest daughter, and like going back to what you said, Brandon, about like. The kids all kind of being similar ages. Like, I think the mother and the father had children like normal people do. This is how they raise their children. So like they had children, you know how everyone has the 3 children within
2 or
the
3
5, whatever, and so, but then the whole thing with her being pregnant with twins, and then like, oh, she's going to birth a dog, but really he's just going to buy a dog and bring it home with the babies. But like, that didn't bother me as much. I didn't think that was like completely like what you mentioned, possibly manufactured. It definitely just fit. But with the ending, I thought it took too long for one of them to realize, fuck, if I'm just waiting for my Dogtooth to fall out, like I'm getting out of here. Like this is.
I don't feel that way because they've spent so much time in the movie demonstrating how extensive the network of lies is. And it only gets fucked up when they introduce someone else into the equation, which is Christina.
Okay.
Like bringing an outsider into the thing. Like they've managed to keep it insular for so long, and then like, but ultimately something like this isn't sustainable forever. So of course, at some point it falls apart, and that factor was the woman who they brought.
I think
sorry, can I just touch on something? Because I think an important factor is I didn't even realize that's why she knocked her teeth out until Josh just said that.
Did you? But they like explain.
They say it in the movie.
They
say you can only leave when you use your dog tooth.
So much shit.
Yeah, that's why you gotta pay attention.
Read the subtitles.
They do say a lot of stuff, but that's one of the. I mean, the movie's called Dogtooth. They have at dinner. They have a moment where it's like, when can you leave? When your dog tooth falls out, which is like your canine. But that's like not a baby tooth. It's an adult tooth, so it of course will never fall out.
Yeah.
So I think what that is supposed to symbolize, or what I get from it, is that the daughter is like discovering agency. The only way I'm going to escape is if I take this on for myself. And I think it's really fucking gruesome. Teeth freak me out. So she's banging her fucking face with a dumbbell. That's disturbing to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a little more sense to me now.
And then, I had something else to say. But yeah, I don't know.
I think, yes, but I think it's also because with kind of her, I don't know, they never really establish how much younger the son is compared to the older.
I think, they're all supposed to be young adults, like late teenagers, early 20s, all the same age. And
I think...
Which is disturbing because they know so little.
Right,
they're infantilized.
Oh my god, yeah. But like her getting into the back of the car and waiting, I thought that was clever, because for me, I'm thinking like, yeah, fuck yeah, get through the gate and just fucking run, bitch, run. Mm-hmm. But she goes
because they established earlier that that's like the only way you can safely leave is through the car, so she has to sit in the trunk, and then it's like we hold on that car at his work or whatever, and we don't know what happens to her.
Yeah, we don't know if she suffocated or if she will get out.
I think it's a really tightly written screenplay. Even if obviously if you can't buy into the reality of what's happening, of course it's all going to seem dumb. And maybe some of it is dumb, but I think he did a really good job about taking this concept the farthest you possibly can.
Yeah.
While it still remains sort of believable. Because again, this happens. People tell their kids all the time, it's completely legal to lie to your kids. It's completely legal to say evolution's not real. It's completely legal to say that God punishes people for being different than you. And I think it's just that idea taken to the extreme. And that's why I think it's really interesting. And I picked it, this week because it's I was being glib earlier, it's Thanksgiving, so we'll do a movie about family. Because, but I don't know. I like it a lot, and I totally hear your criticisms of it, and I'm sorry it didn't grab you in the same way.
No, but at the same time, it's there's always interesting stuff. That's not what I'm saying. Again, knowing the director and writer, he directed and wrote it, right?
He directs and co-writes everything. I forget the name of the co-writer for this.
I just the Lobster I felt was so complex comparatively. Yeah. That's what got me. You know what I mean? But that makes sense. I mean, there's a thing
to go to watch this through. Although it's trying to as artists and as people who are now seeing all sorts of different kinds of movies to how do we practice that, seeing it through a more of an open mind and not necessarily through our own personal experiences and things with these types of movies. Because my favorite thing that one of our professors said, Brian Reinhardt, throughout school was he goes over to Germany to do theater, because Germany is so they
talk about weird shit,
so weird, and they don't give a shit, and you can get away with a lot of shit over at Germany, and it's just how that works. So it's getting in behind and then in the mindset of different artists and filmmakers and storytellers that are completely out of my avenue of taste or feel or whatever, but it's intriguing to me because you have to be able to have that moment of, oh shit, they're naked and she's jerking him off to get ready for sex. Oh, they're having sex. How are they gonna do that? To then going, okay, past that. Now let's how does this fit into the overall story? What I also want to say is, now that we're kind of dabbling into finally filming our own stuff, it's the use of single shot, long shots of just maybe having a scene that first scene in the bathroom when they're talking about the endurance game with the tap of water. It reminds me of when you're a kid and you're with your siblings and you're just bored and we had TV and stuff like that before we had our Game Boys. It's you come up with games to play, and like endurance under the hot tap, like it's totally, it was like, yeah, that actually I probably find that interesting to see, but the shot is on the youngest daughter, and the other two actors are off camera, but they're still having their scene. And so like for me, it's, you know, it's then also learning as a director and stuff like that of how to have one setup or one major setting for principal photography, and then how do you stage and put the camera and follow and things like that, right? It's very simple, which I appreciate with the editing, stuff like that. There's also not a lot of score to it.
I loved that they didn't have a score. That's something I really liked about it. The only music you hear is like when they're playing it in the universe of the movie, like on the radio or on a record. I thought that adds, because like it's unsettling to like be in silence. You know what I mean? So I feel like that personally added a lot of the atmosphere to me. And then like, it's fucked up because like he's listening to like the Sinatra record in English and like purposefully like mistranslating to the kids, like obey your parents, like love your family. It's insidious. And I think like it's very quietly disturbing, like moments like that, you know?
So it'll be something going forward too, that, you know, as artists that we have to kind of sometimes, you know, digest and like sit with something that does make us uncomfortable. You know, that's what I did. I sat there thinking about it afterwards. I was like, oh, great, awesome.
I mean,
like,
again, and to me, like I do think like a lot of it is very funny. Like I love like, I mean, the when they're barking like dogs, that's just so fucking bizarre. And I think it's great. I think the flash dance thing is great. I love when the guy is like, when the son is like at the fence and he's like talking to his imaginary brother, and then the parents are like, oh, he's at the fence again. Like it's stuff like that. I don't know. I think
or like
it's
yellow flowers or zombies.
But then he's like,
and he's like, Mom, there's 2 zombies in the yard, and she's like, oh yeah, I told him they were dandelions. Like it's like,
or then, you know, it's like he's like, he was throwing rocks at me. They're like, no, he wasn't.
Yeah. Because they know that there's not a cat. But so he's like, yeah, a cat came in and hit his knee with the hammer.
Yeah.
And then she's like, yeah, well, you know, you have to be prepared. It's just fucking bizarre. I don't know. Was there anything you liked about it, Brandon?
No, I mean, that's like, especially the stuff Josh was talking about, like the way it was shot, the direction of it, the art direction of it. I appreciated all of that. Again, like for me though, again, knowing his work, that was all expected. That's his style, and that was all great. Mm-hmm. I just, in my head, expected the same, you know, level of stuff, but it's earlier work. Mm-hmm. So it's more just putting it in that headspace. Also, like the Shudder thing really threw me off. I was expecting like a horror movie. You know what I mean? So watching all this, I was expecting some big like horror twist or like, you know what I mean? So looking at it as an abstract, you know, hour-and-a-half movie that was made for $100,000 is very different.
Yeah.
You know, then
so it's more of just like using like
then it's
expectation
much more,
of the creator, right, and then the platform that it's on.
Right, exactly. Then it's much more appreciation now of like, okay, well now I see what you're trying to do in a much more difficult way, because you don't have the option to do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have the option to pack a fucking, you know, to have 200 extras in a scene. You don't get any of those options. You don't have the option to film this in New York and put it in an apartment. You know what I'm saying? So like, as early work that then makes you blow up, I get it a lot more, you know?
For sure.
Also, especially as a piece that shows his style, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you watch that he filmed after this, like so clear, like this is so clearly a blueprint for like all of that stuff. And I agree with you. Like, in my opinion, his best movie is The Favorite, but I also really love The Lobster. And I think they both do a better job about handling that balance. Like those two movies are much like outwardly like more comedic, while also still being disturbing.
I just think the storytelling is more concrete for me, you know, the narrative.
Well, yeah, he's had a decade to refine it now.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then like knowing that, and especially like doing a movie for, you know, that little money, you have such limited options. So now it is like, okay, what can we do here that's basically one setting, limited cast? You know what I mean? So now it's all okay. Now I'm like, all right.
For sure.
What do you think came first though? Like the idea of, I think the story and this idea came first. Cause I think
he was inspired to write the story, or inspired to do the movie because I guess a married friends of his that had just gotten married and were talking about having a children, and Yorgos was like, I would hate to fuck up my child's life. It was like, and then it's just like kind of extrapolated from, it's like anxieties. It's like
ran with it.
And then, I do think you have an idea, and then how can I best execute this idea with so little money that I have?
Right. Exactly. You mix and change things and yeah.
You put a dash of incest and it's Caleb's movie of the year. So, but I don't know. I'm just still hung up on, I think there's absolutely a point to it, and it's fine if you don't like it, Brandon, but I just wanted to defend his artistic intention as much as I could.
No. I understand that. Like I said, for me, it's not that I don't understand the point or even disagree that is the point. That is blatantly the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For me, I was like, but I know that. I feel like if he did this movie now, I wouldn't be saying that. I'd be like, okay, there's the point, and here's why you wanted me to know this. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the part that's missing for me, is that here's the point, but what are you adding to it? Does that make sense? And I think that's just an early artist thing, where it's like it's just less defined, right? You know what you're trying to talk about, but not exactly what you're trying to say.
But I feel like he does that.
Okay.
In my opinion,
just don't.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think he
good.
succeeds, but I totally understand where you're coming from for sure. I don't know if you guys don't have anything else to talk about. I also really like when she discovers the Hollywood tapes, and so she starts quoting like Jaws and Rocky, and I
want to be called Bruce, and the whole scene of her like getting into her body, answering to Bruce.
Yeah,
that was a funny thing.
Yeah, she's like sitting down and she's like, if you say Bruce, I'll do this, and like turns around it's like weirdly charming, and until something fucked up happens and you're like, oh right, this is like a horrible nightmare. But then like, because these kids don't know any better,
Yeah.
But then even the scene, after like they have the incest and they're laying there and she's like, if you ever do that to me again, I will kill you and your like all of your whole clan. You know, and it's like
she's quoting a movie. She's quoting movies because that's all now that she knows. I think it's awesome. Great. Yeah, it's awesome. Exactly.
Like that. No, that's what I'm saying. Like there were certain scenes that were good. I was just like expecting more. That's all.
Yeah, I totally get that. I don't know. You have anything else, Josh?
I don't have anything. If you,
no, I think it's great. Yorgos is definitely not for everybody. This is definitely not his best work, but I think that it's, really sort of talking about a very serious issue in a unique way. And for me, it's an easy 4 out of 5.
See, it's interesting. I think what got me there, and it's such a perfect way that you just said that, because for me, it obviously is an important issue, and that didn't even click until we were talking about it. And I think for me, that's what makes the gap in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give it like a 2.5.
Sure.
I'll give it a 3, only because aesthetically and just kind of storytelling wise, not my cup of tea, but I appreciate the conversation and the work done to it.
It was definitely a good conversation. So now I definitely understand why we were watching it.
Awesome. Cool, guys. So next episode, my choice. I've been going back and forth, but I think so. Ryan just got this great movie called The Elephant Man. It's a 1980 movie by David Lynch, going back to Mr. Lynch 4 years before he did Dune, which we did a few episodes back. So please check that out. It's on the Criterion channel. So check that out. And I think it'll be a nice, cool way. We got our boy Anthony Hopkins in it.
John Hurt, John
Gielgud.
I think Elizabeth Bancroft too. I mean, the cast is insane.
Annie Bancroft.
It's a real classic right there.
It's going to be nominated for a lot of Academy Awards, and it'll be nice, quick, and easy. So I think that should be the only thing we do next week. I think.
Do you want to talk about business stuff while we're still on the air?
Oh shit! All right, hold on, pause, and I'll go back in. The Elephant Man, 1980. David Lynch. Sorry, listeners. For next week.
That's so funny. Yeah, that sounds
good.
The
Elephant Man.
The Elephant Man.
Wait, is it The Elephant Man?
The Elephant Man.
Okay.
Oh.
it's interesting. There was a play done on Broadway a few years back with our boy Bradley Cooper.
Our boy.
Probably the same.
Our best friend. Yeah.
Probably based on the same kind of source material. I know this movie was based off a couple books.
I know Brad wants to. He keeps trying to come on, but we just don't have time for him. We just have to keep bumping him. So
busy. Yeah, we keep pushing him back.
Sorry, Brad.
But cool. So next week, Elephant Man by David Lynch, Criterion Collection or Channel. Is it Channel or Collection?
So the channel is the streaming service, and the collection is like the company that releases the special edition DVDs and Blu-rays. They're run by the same people, obviously.
Okay, cool. So it's on the Criterion Channel, the streaming service, if you have it. So please check it out.
And if you don't have it, get it. What are you doing?
Get it. No, you definitely...
$100 a year for the best streaming service, in my opinion, because they have not only great films, but also great interviews, commentary tracks, behind-the-scenes footage. It's just fucking awesome. I love it.
Yeah, knowledge, motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, check out We Are 3M Affairs podcast. We are on all the major podcast sites if you haven't noticed yet. Our new episode coming out for this last week.
Do we want to say?
John Wick.
I don't know if we talked about it.
Yeah, coming up, we do have...
interview.
Yep, we have a special interview with
Ali Keller and Jim Fagan.
Yep, who directed and produced
a film called Zero Issue.
I think you can watch it on YouTube for free, right, Brandon?
Yep, it's on YouTube for free. We'll throw the link up on our Instagram. I was the art director of it. And it was while we were in school. And Jim Fagan is a MFA director from the Actors Studio as well. Graduated a few years before us, so it'll be a fun conversation.
Great. Yeah. And it'll be great. They'll be recording here shortly, and so it'll be up probably in the next couple of weeks. So check that out, as well as our now 37 episode library that we have. It's kind of nuts that we have so many episodes.
Yeah,
but
we've been doing this for a while.
We're gonna keep rolling, baby. We're almost into the end of the year. So
we're gonna have to do something special for number 40.
Wait,
that's Caleb. Caleb's number 40.
No, it's not. Number 40 is this one that we're talking about now.
Well, it's funny because
the Elephant Man.
All right.
Elephant Man is number 40. Right? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, because Cake Maker
10. Well, Cake Maker doesn't have a number.
Doesn't have a number. Halloween Special doesn't have a number.
Yeah.
I know. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 1,
I love
2,
this.
3. 4 is Texas Chainsaw, skipping Halloween Special. 5, Ghostbusters.
How high can you go?
Yeah, the Elephant Man's number 40.
Boom.
Oh, perfect. So, number 40.
Tune in for episode number 40. The Elephant 40.
Man. All right, guys. Caleb, you want to sign us off? I guess never mind.
Did I do that right?
Who knows? While Caleb figures this out, thank you guys for listening. We are 3M Affairs doing a podcast on movies.
Christ.
This episode was great. Thanks for the great conversation.
Yeah, sorry.
Check out Dogtooth. Check out Queen's
watch
Gambit.
A fucking horrible movie.
Check out The Boys. And next week we have The Elephant Man.
3 masters of math.
Take care, guys.